Exhibits.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. And while I listened to the long-winded story of the woman, the only part of the story I believe my colleague from Bethesda omitted is the part where this man, realizing that the woman was vulnerable, promised her everything. Sweet talked her, told her he could change her life, he could fix things, he could fix this. And when the woman decided to finally give that man a chance, what she realized is that he was all talk and no action. Madam Presiding Officer, and this is, Madam Presiding Officer, and this is the current reality of Tobago, where you have some folks who came to the electorate telling the electorate, we will fix this, we'll fix your roads, we'll fix your problems. And when Tobagonians decided to give them a chance, what Tobagonians have come to realize is that they really can't fix nothing. Not even this bill today. We're supposed to be having a conversation, Madam Presiding Officer. And you see what is happening, and I guess these members believe, because if you reach a party late, you're supposed to start over the party. Not realizing that this process is a process that started in 2007, culminating in 2016 with the Tobago Constitution Amendment to Self-Government Bill. And this bill is a bill that that emanated from a forum in Signal Hill where a wide cross-section of Tobagonians gathered after numerous consultations from the political forum of political parties. I remember being in Trinidad at UE as well. So the conversations weren't just held in Tobago. They were held across the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. And after pulling together all the views, different recommendations were put to a vote at Signal Hill, the Signal Hill Accord. And it is from those agreed positions that the legal framework was put into place. And that legal framework came to the House, was debated, approved, transmitted to the Parliament, to the Cabinet. The Cabinet took that very same bill, laid it in the Parliament. The Parliament now sent it to a joint select committee, and I continue to hear my colleagues saying, the PNM. And I took my time to explain to them that these two pieces of legislation is not the work of the PNM, it is the work of a joint select committee of the Parliament. That is members of the government, members of the opposition, and independent senator, including Dr. Remy. So if you're saying the bills are anti-Tobago, the bill's not good, you're also saying persons of the independent-minded Dr. Remy also is against Tobago. And that is the point. Madam Presiding Officer, you would think that the discussions would emanate from what Tobago approved and sent down, and then you take, because you're basically, this is what is on the table, then you look to see what did we send down and what did we get back? And are there any variance between what we said as Tobagonians we wanted? Because I'm hearing all kind of new conversation. The conversation about federalism was on the table and that was rejected. The conversation about independence was on the table and that was rejected. What Tobagonians agreed is that we want a devolved relationship where there's the central government of Trinidad and Tobago, and we have our self-government within the Union of Trinidad and Tobago. That was the agreed position. So how you all are coming now trying to reinvent the wheel? I hear the Secretary of Finance foisting on this House an arrangement that is crafted in federalism from Canada. When we have a devolved arrangement, you hear people saying, well, our law should supersede the central government, when the central government, and I want people to understand, it is not the central government of Trinidad It is the central government of Trinidad and Tobago. So this, I hear people talking about who are 50% and who are 50%. Those conversations starts when you plan to leave a relationship. And if this, as I keep asking my colleagues, if your position is to secede, simply tell Tobagonians that you want to secede. Because if my wife start telling me, well, this is my 50 and this is your 50, I get worried, innit? I get... So I hear one member talking about his 50 and Trinidad 50. So I am worried now as a Tobagonian, is it that we're going to secede? And is that something you all will be putting to the electorate of Tobago in a couple months? Because it seemed to me that you all are laying the foundation for a discussion on secession. As I sat here, that is what I interpreted, because the foundation of this debate today should have been these bills that all of us in Tobago participated in, approved in this House, sent to the Cabinet, was laid in the Parliament, reviewed by a GSC, and came back into us in the form of 2 pieces of legislation, which we all got an opportunity to view. Many of you participated in those post-consultation. Many of you had your say. Some of what you said was adopted and included. And the fact is, when you are in a relationship and the focus is to preserve the union, there will be some level of compromise and negotiation. Any kind of relationship, whether it's a marriage, a friendship, any kind of partnership, business and all, if the goal is to stay together, then ultimately you will understand that some things that you ask for, you may not get it in the way you envisage. So for instance, and I hear they keep referencing this 200 nautical miles and trying to put it on the shoulders of Mr. London. Mr. London don't own these bills. These bills came out from a process from the forum of political parties. This was Tobagonians working together. And this is why I kept reminding them that when... Madam Presiding, this is why I keep reminding my colleagues, when we stand together, we go far. When we stand disunited, we stay stagnated. And therefore, the whole essence of this is that, look, you are saying that, and they continue to misinform, Madam Presiding Officer, a lot of misinformation. They're telling Tobagonians, well, we should reject the bills because the bill we sent down had 200 nautical miles. Madam Presiding Officer, I have the bills as sent to Parliament. And I'm reading from section, from clause 4, section 1 of the Constitution is amended by, and it says 2A, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago shall comprise the land of Trinidad and the island of Tobago and other islands of the archipelago that are enclosed landward of the archipelagic baselines as well as the archipelagic waters. The 12-mile territorial sea, and including the seabed and subsoil situated beneath the territorial sea of Trinidad and Tobago and their super adjacent airspaces. So here we are, making noise about miles, and the bills we sent spoke to 12 nautical miles. The bills we got speak to 11 nautical miles. So all you have is a difference of 1 nautical mile, and you're going to refuse and reject, as we are being told today, a bill that allows you lawmaking powers, 6.8% in confirmed, enshrined minimum budgetary allocation, fiscal review commission that can give you more and ensure your tax collection systems, both what you, in terms of what you could now get and accounted for persons paying taxes in Trinidad, all that is in there, the ability to borrow without the minister unreasonably withholding, the ability to invest. So you are telling Tobagonians, just for 1 nautical miles, reject. And it's the same thing I'm hearing about 6.8 and 6.9. You never get 6.9 in the history of the THA Act, though it says that is the ceiling, the upper limit. But yet, you are getting guaranteed 6.8 and you're saying that's enough. And you know what makes it even more ridiculous? We came here just last month, whining and grinding and fussing, begging to get 5.8. And the bill guarantees you 6.8. But now you're saying that's not enough. What all you really want? Because if you're saying 5.8% of the national budget is sufficient to treat with your management needs of the island, and you are getting even more, then what is the problem? No, but if you want to beg when you can get it guaranteed, I don't know who in their right mind will get something guaranteed and prefer to beg free. I don't understand it, and especially knowing that you never get it before. Madam Presiding Officer, so as I wrap up, and I just wanted to take, really treat with some of the misinformation, and it's deliberate. They are deliberately spreading misinformation in the space. And I must express my disappointment in what we have witnessed today. It is clear to me that the majority of those who stood against these bills, they have not even taken the time to read and understand the legislation before us. Instead, they have come armed with misinformation and disinformation. For instance, as I said, one speaker talked about 0 miles. Which part in this bill or pieces of legislation refer to no miles? When it clearly tells you from the shoreline to a point 11 nautical miles, you have complete administrative powers in those areas. So when I hear people talking about the tourism secretary talking about, well, she can regulate, where the Boko Marine Park is that beyond the 11 nautical miles? And you know, we move from the ridiculous sometimes, because you would think there's something out there that when you on a boat or something and you're passing, it says you're in Tobago. Yeah, this is the 11 nautical miles here for Tobago, and the rest is Trinidad. We don't define ourselves like that in Trinidad and Tobago. We defined ourselves as Trinidad and Tobagonians within the maritime space that is Trinidad and Tobago. Why are you all so busy wanting to separate the islands? You all don't separate all yourself from PDP. All you want to separate Tobago from Trinidad as well? All you separatists. That's what all you're about. Look, Watson, you are nice.
Assemblyman Morris, be mindful of your words, please.
I think. Madam Presiding Officer, and you know, there has been a familiar tactic today. You know, this is an administration that blames everybody but themselves. Just recently, my colleague, the Chief Secretary, got himself in hot waters because rather than taking responsibility for Tobago's crime challenges, he was busy blaming mothers. And today again, you see the secretaries and the representatives coming in this house, and for every challenge, they are there blaming, telling you it's the central government. Imagine the person who is responsible for bringing international direct flights to Tobago is telling you that Trinidad not doing enough to market Tobago. So what is your job? What is the job of TTAL? That is what you said. You said that Trinidad, you will have an airport, and Trinidad has not put the systems in place. Blaming Trinidad.
State that I'm blaming Trinidad for lack of marketing of the destination. I never said those words. So I think the member needs to withdraw. Thank you.
You said actually spoke
If it wasn't said, please retract and move on, please.
Madam Presiding Officer, I retract, except that the Secretary was clear to indicate that the Prime Minister should be, well, I guess you want him to, in addition to bringing Marriott, a mega project, after they were part of the coup that run Sanders, and after the Prime Minister go out and attract another mega hotel, you are still asking the Prime Minister to go and do more. What are you doing for yourself? You are the one asking what they're going to do to put in the space to go with the airport. Well, you talk about a marina. The government is doing the macro, and it is upon you to do the micro. Where is your development of sites and attractions? Where is the strategic plan that we've been asking about? Where is...
Assemblyman Morris, you can continue with your presentation.
Madam Presiding Officer, what I find even more troubling is that this administration, as I said, they don't want to take any responsibility, and it makes for good politics. So perhaps they like how things are, because I see for all the complaint, they complain about the inadequacies of the very THA Act of Act 40 of 1996. They seem very, very comfortable rejecting this bill in preference for that, because Mr. Sampson is on record as saying these bills, which afford even more than anything you could imagine, is worse than Act 40 of 1996. And perhaps the reason why they like Act 40 of 1996 is because it provides them with a plausible excuse to hide their incompetency. And because they could sell a story as to the central government of Trinidad and Tobago don't like we, and play on the emotions of Tobagonians, perhaps that is why they are so comfortable to reject these bills. What I find even more troubling, Madam Presiding Officer, is that this administration, as I said, seems to be laying the groundwork for secession under the guise of autonomy. Madam Presiding Officer, this is the same group that rode in as PDP and then cut ties with that party. They are applying the same playbook here, creating division while claiming to stand for unity and for Tobago. We see the seeds of separation being planted when we should be fostering closer ties within the framework of self-governance. But the confusion doesn't stop there, now, Madam Presiding Officer, because we've heard different members of this administration speak from entirely different sides of their mouths. The Chief Secretary himself recently said that the bills are good bills, but they just need minor adjustments. But today, we heard the Deputy Chief Secretary saying some parts are good, but it needs major amendments. So you move from minor to major and to reject the bill. And another member says outright that nothing in the bill is good. I think it was the Secretary of Infrastructure. Say the only thing must be good is the 6.8. And he even went on to say, well, we're not even sure of getting 6.8. So,
clarification, Madam Presiding Officer. I think the member is...
Point of clarification.
Point of clarification. My error. I hear the member indicating that I have stated things that I am sure I did not state before, even in this sitting today, so I will ask that he be very careful and probably retract some of that.
some of what?
I'm just going to advise to not say things that members did not say.
Madam Presiding Officer, I am simply repeating what I heard, and I sure I heard the member indicating that the bills need adjustments. And in fact, even the amendment that she made is there saying that it needs necessary amendments. So I'm not saying what she said. Anyways, I'll move on, Madam Presiding Officer. Madam Presiding Officer, so which one is it? Is it that the bills are good and you really want to work to genuinely make it better? Or is it an outright rejection? Because I heard in one breath here today, clear outright rejection of the bill. But when you look at the amendment in the motion, the only thing they seem to have a slight issue with is that it should not be accepted without amendments. So there's some disconnect, and I don't know if that is symptomatic and symbolic of what is happening amongst the 14 or 15 independents, because there seems to be a lot of disconnect and dissonance today. But, Madam Presiding Officer, the Tobago Amendment bills and the two other pieces of legislation are properly aligned to deliver greater autonomy for our island. Yet no one, well, with the exception of perhaps the attempt from the Secretary of Finance, very few amendments or recommendations were proposed that address the real substance of what's before us. It seems to me that the members opposite, they are more interested in stalling, in rejecting outright, rather than engaging in constructive debate to refine these bills. And, Madam Presiding Officer, we were so magnanimous. I gave credit where credit was due. I highlighted the achievements of persons like Arthur Napoleon Raymond Robinson. Once a PNM turned and went his way. I highlighted the contribution of the late Hotoi Charles. But when was their turn to talk? They behaved like no PNM ever made any contribution to the autonomy discussion and process, which is quite disingenuous, because ultimately we all should see ourselves as Tobagonians first. Look, today I looked through some recognition, and you know what was clear in those recognition? That the people they were celebrating, not one of those persons identified publicly with the PNM. And it says to me, is this the Tobago within an autonomous framework that we want to create, where there's division on one side as opposed to the next? Because we saw it in how they approached governance from day one, where they came in and right away, if you looked like a PNM, you are unworthy of employment. And therefore, as we speak autonomy, we have to consider that we are doing this for all of Tobago, not for one side as opposed to the other. Madam Presiding Officer, we are at a crossroads. This is the moment for us to take that decisive step forward. Because, you know, what is the alternative, Madam Presiding Officer? All right, I'm hearing all the conversation about it not ready, but what is the alternative? What is the plan? Will we sit back and wait another 10 or 20 years for another chance? Because some of the discussions we're having are new proposals, and does that mean we have to go back to the people of Tobago all again and restart the process? Because I want us to do some introspection. Just imagine if our framers, who stood the test of time and accepted the small gains of creating the Tobago House of Assembly, if they were thinking like you all today, because I'm not thinking like that, if they were thinking like those on that side, do you think we would have gotten the Tobago House of Assembly? Because they understood that to get to a destination, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. And therefore they understood, even though Mr. Robinson, he had a dream of what the full autonomy dream would be. But he understood that sometimes you just have to run your part and put the baton on to somebody. It's a relay and a continuum towards a journey, towards an end. And therefore, it doesn't mean that because you don't get everything, you throw down the baton or you kick the bucket down the road. And therefore, if, again, when it came to Act 40 of 1996, that we all are saying is inadequate, if they too were to take the position that if it's not perfect, we don't want it, then where would we have been? We would have still been in 1980 Act, where they don't even have a chief secretary, they didn't even have an administrator, you barely had a proper office, and therefore these bills, if you are to be quite honest, when you do and look at what we require to treat with Tobago's needs at this time, these bills provide you with the systems, the legal framework, and the resources to get Tobago moving. They do, because they give you the resources, 6.8%, almost $4 billion. That means jobs for people who can't get jobs. That means that all the roads that you can't get fixed, you could fix your roads. It speaks to the Fiscal Review Commission and all the added benefits. It speaks to the ability to make laws for the things that we want to treat with right here. Because all the fishery thing I hear my colleague for food security talk about, within the 11 nautical miles, you can make laws and you can manage that space. Nobody could tell you how to manage that space. So, Madam Presiding Officer, I want to return to the story of the two travelers. One sought perfection but remained stagnant, never moving forward, while the other took a decisive leap forward, understanding that progress often requires compromise. My fellow Tobagonians, we stand here today as those travelers. Do we remain stuck, waiting for the perfect opportunity that may never come? Or do we take the leap and embrace the opportunities these bills offer? I want to suggest to Tobagonians, let's not gamble with our future. We have two bills that guarantees us fundamental benefits and advanced benefits from what we currently enjoy, and therefore, Madam Presiding Officer, time is of the essence. These bills provide a superior opportunity for Tobago, greater financial resources, a stronger legal framework, more control over our destiny. To reject them now or signal that we are not happy with them would be a travesty, because that is the legs that the UNC wants to run. And the question is, I have to ask, whose bidding are you all really doing here today? Is it the bidding and the interests of the people of Tobago in ensuring they get more? Or is it the bidding of your friends in Trinidad, the Yellow Brigade? Madam Presiding Officer, as the Chief Secretary himself
Assemblyman
said,
Morris.
I asked a question.
Assemblyman Morris, your inferences,
No, asking a question, Madam.
it's very heavy. Retract and move forward, please.
All right, I'm almost done, Madam Presiding Officer. So, as the Chief Secretary himself said, these are good bills. Your leader said the bills are good bills. And we cannot let minor disagreements, like a 0.1% and a 1 nautical mile, rob us of this chance. As I close, I urge all members of this House and the people of Tobago to reflect on the words of the late Hotoy Charles, who said, "The day Tobago unites is the day Tobago wins." These bills offer us the opportunity to unite, to win, and build a brighter future for Tobago. Let history record this moment as the day we stood together for Tobago's self-government. I so move and I so thank you.
Honorable members, before the House votes on the amended motion, I must put the proposed amendments to the House as they were proposed. First amendment to the third recital, propose leaving out the word 3 and insert the word 5. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? Amendment carried. Second amendment to the fourth recital, the words proposed, bills to grant Tobago the long denied autonomy will soon be debated and put to a vote in Parliament, be inserted after the word that and the words Constitution, Amendment, Self-Government, Tobago Self-Government be left out. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against, say nay. The ayes have it, amendment carried. Third amendment to the fifth recital, propose to insert the word should before the word represent. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against, say nay. Amendment carried. Fourth amendment, at the last resolution, propose to insert the words with necessary amendments and leave out the words without further amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against say nay. Amendment carried. Now the amendment proposed by the minority. Honorable members, the question put is that the motion be amended by inserting the word delay after further at the resolution, at the last resolution of the motion, leaving out the word amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against, say nay. Amendment denied. Members, the amendments are carried. I will now put the amended motion to the House. Honorable members, the amended motion put is that whereas the Tobago House of Assembly, THA, is constitutionally mandated to govern and manage the affairs of Tobago in accordance with Act 40 of 1996. And whereas Act 40 of 1996 provided enhanced authority to the Tobago House of Assembly, its provisions have not yet delivered the full level of autonomy sought by Tobagonians. And whereas for over 5 decades, successive efforts to achieve consensus, both within and outside Parliament, have failed to secure the passage of bills that would grant Tobago the desired autonomy. And whereas the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago has announced that the bills to grant Tobago the long-denied autonomy will soon be debated and put to a vote in Parliament, and whereas these bills should represent a historic step forward, proposes substantive improvement to the Tobago's autonomy and authority, including the establishment of the Tobago Legislature and the entrenchment of core provisions for Tobago's self-governance. Be it resolved that this House acknowledges the provisions of these bills should have Be it resolved that this House acknowledges that the provisions of these bills should have far-reaching and positive impacts on the powers of the Tobago House of Assembly and the quality of life for all Tobagonians. Be it further resolved that this House unequivocally supports the swift passage of these bills into law, recognizing that any further delay would perpetuate the long-standing disenfranchisement of the people of Tobago. And be it further resolved that this House encourages all necessary actions to ensure the passage of appropriate bills, including an urgent bipartisan meeting between members of the Tobago House of Assembly and Parliament to facilitate their smooth and timely enactment with the necessary amendments. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Amended motion is carried.
Motion for adjournment.
Leader of Assembly Business.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. I beg to move that this House now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Honorable members, the question is that this House now stands adjourned for a date to be fixed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed. Good afternoon, members. Please have a safe and enjoyable carnival.